What up, guys? Coach Joe here, back at it. It's Technique Tuesday. We want to talk about pressing overhead today. As you can hear, this is Coach Noah in the background over here. I might have to pick him up for this video. Press him overhead a little bit to see if we can get him not to talk too much. But we're going to talk about the overhead press and the push press. So my beautiful wife Melody is my model today. She's going to pick up the barbell. She's going to clean it up to that rack position. So we can start the shoulder press in a number of different ways. Some people like to have it laying on their shoulders with the elbows up, like they're coming out of a clean, which is good if we're practicing for Olympic lifts. Usually push press, push jerk, which is another video. For a shoulder press, I'm going to bring her elbows down a little bit, and I want to make sure she doesn't have the bar too far back in her hand. So if we turn to the side here, keep turning, right there. Right now that bar is pretty far back in her hand. And the bigger the distance that bar moves away from her wrist, the more stress she's going to have to indulge, or more stress she's going to have to absorb through that joint. This is a small joint. It doesn't absorb stress that well. So I'm going to tilt her a little bit forward. But really what I'm trying to do is get the bar forward in her hand somewhat. And we still want the elbows at least a little bit underneath the bar or slightly out past the bar. But she's got to make sure she knows how to keep her hand, keep that bar right over the top of her wrist. So when she presses, you'll see her move her head back slightly, and then at the top, her head may go forward some, but we don't want a big head jut forward, and we want these arms either blocking the ears slightly from the sides, or hopefully you should be able to see her ears from the sides. Go ahead and bring it down. Bringing the bar back like that, as Noah's trying to tell you right now, gets it into a good stable position and creates stability in the shoulders. Through some rotational type movements, and helps keep that joint strong, because that joint does a lot of different things, and we want to be able to pull it into a stable position so that it can hold heavy weight above our head. So if she turns and faces the camera, one more thing we want to talk about a little bit here. When she presses overhead, go ahead and press. We want to make sure that when she's pressing, we can do that head movement a little bit, but we got to get that head forward fast or get the shoulders back fast, because we cannot have somebody arch and lean back. It puts all the pressure directly into their spine. So right now, if you look, you can see her elbows sticking out a little bit. What we want to work on with her, depending on how things are going for her, is getting these elbows fully straight at the top of the movement. And as you saw in her face, that was a little bit uncomfortable. Go ahead and bring the bar down. So she's got a few mobility limitations that we need to work on, either through her lats and biceps or in her triceps. But ideally, we would want those elbows locked out at the top of that shoulder press. We want the arms by the ears, and we want that core nice and tight. So let's review that again. Go ahead and pick that barbell up. Let's go from that side view again. And without using her legs, she's going to get real tight, keep the quads tight. She's going to press up. A little bit of head movement, head through, lock out, come back down. Remember, we want that bar a little further forward in the hands. Go ahead, let's get a couple presses in. So this is a strict press. As we get heavier and heavier, we get to a point where we cannot press this overhead strict and maintain good body tension. We go into something called a push press, which is really like a cheating shoulder press. So we get one knee bend, and then she's going to lock out. So she drops, fires up, and locks out. Notice how much faster that goes up. Everything up here still applies, but it's a way for us to improve muscular power, or an athlete's ability to jump and explode and change directions down there in the legs, but also make them a little bit stronger here. So let's go through that push press, a couple more reps. So she's going to bring it up. Drop, pop. Everything locks out quickly on the way up. One more time, bring it down. Drop, pop. So you got to be aggressive on the way up. Sometimes people make mistakes with this, and when they do the drop, they drop too deep, almost like a squat, or they drop fast and then they're up slow. It's a slow, or like a very average, maybe 1 to 2 second drop, and then explode and fire up and get those arms back. So Technique Tuesday today with BFP, we talked about the overhead press, and we briefly visited the push press. If you have any questions at all that you want to ask Noah or my wife or me, throw them in the comments below. We'll see you next week. Thanks.